In this video, I want to share with you the dashboard I've built in order to help me make financial decisions for the business and events that I'm running. This allows me to, for example, have a clear understanding whether I can afford adding more staff, or whether I can afford running a marketing campaign, or whether I'm running into trouble and really have to plan ahead to create projects that are revenue generating so we get better cash flow when we go through a low season, for example. All of these decisions are really crucial to the business. And without a proper dashboard, it's really becoming hard to make these decisions timely and not ruin your business. And in fact, they came about because of situations like that, where as a young business owner, I didn't have all this knowledge and information. So I did make decisions that almost ruined the company a few times. And so the lessons learned come from real pain, sweat, and blood, and a lot of tears. So I really hope you go through this video, apply it to your business, and make sure you can make good financial decisions. In fact, before we go into the details of the videos, I have helped several people with implementing this. And the thing that they all had in common is the emotional blockage from implementing something like this, especially if you are a small business and your company and or your projects and your personal finances are intertwined. It can really feel overwhelming when trying to gain clarity over your financial situation. It's a situation where it feels like ignorance is a bliss, but I can promise you ignorance is not a bliss. Whether you realize you're really in trouble or whether you realize you're safe, having that understanding actually, once you do have that understanding, removes a lot of the background stress that you're carrying. Decision making becomes easier, you're faster at making decisions, you make better decisions. So my heart goes out to you if you're struggling with setting something like this up for your business and life. But please, please, please do it. It's super important. I can of course help you if you feel stuck. Now, let me show you how it's done. I'm going to show you two versions. One that is simpler to set up, simpler to use, and you can use it perfectly for your cash flow analysis, but only that. There's a more complicated way to set up, but then you can use it for basically your bookkeeping. You can use it for other kind of analysis as well. I'll start with a simple one because it sets the concept. You start with tracking weekly. So you have your weeks, you have your week number. These colors are basically indicating when it goes from 1 month to the other month. And you do this for the rest of the business's life. You look at the bank account statement every week. So you start your Mondays with collecting what you have on your bank, what PayPal, cash in the wallet for your business and stuff like that. You collect them all together. Then you start collecting last week's revenue, last week's expenses. So here you list all the revenues, you list all the expenses, and then you can also project based on what you think how the future will look like for each item, each revenue source, each expense that you have. You can bundle some of these expenses together. Let's say you make a line item for all the office supplies, for example, if it's small things. But honestly, you'll see like we have things that are €9, €5, €1, sometimes because we just want to have that resolution. This is a situation where I rather advise you to go for more details and less details. So you always know where your costs are coming from. You have a clear sense for them, because that also allows you to also be better at projecting what goes into the future and not. With the revenue, once you've done this a little bit, you get a sense of like what is the peaks and valleys of your cash flow situation. You get a sense for if it's a high season, low season. So when you project into the future, you don't just take and draw a straight line to the other side. You map that over previous year's result when it comes to revenue and expenses. And you refine that based on whether you're in high season or low season. So in high season, you can you can estimate your revenues a little bit higher up. In low season, you bring it down. So you really get to see that ebb and flow. And you can do other things as well, where, for example, this is our development prioritization, where we look at that in terms of also in relationship to our financial results. So we make a decision based on how things are going financially. If you have a course round or events, you want to map those out, so because that tells you also when money comes in, when money goes out. So right now, for example, we are working on a new way of handling payment for events and courses. And once you've done this, you get this sort of runway. All of this is obviously dummy data, but you see where you are, you see how it's projecting, and you say, okay, this is looking pretty good, but I have read about this way of doing Facebook marketing or Instagram marketing or LinkedIn marketing or whatever, and I want to try a campaign, but they said that the algorithms need at least 1,500, 2,000 euro a week for it to work. I've never tried that. Can I afford it? So you come here, you're like, okay, I'm gonna introduce marketing campaign, and I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go 2,000 a week for a small business. That's a lot. For a large business, that's nothing. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go all the way to April with it. Can I handle this? And you look at it like, okay, that's gonna kill me. I am not gonna do this. Now, obviously, I haven't added anything on the revenue side, but you know what? I want to make a decision where even if I don't make any money, I'm not dead. So I'm gonna shorten this, or I'm gonna do less money. I'm gonna say this is gonna only go to December, so about 3 months. Okay, at least I'm not dead financially if this doesn't work. So you can obviously go here and say, well, I do expect something to happen, and or I want to see what happens if I have a realistic chance of making double back from this campaign. Then you can look at it and see what sort of scenarios you're creating. Obviously, when it comes to spreadsheets, you can make pigs fly with in that approach. So you want to be very careful with how you estimate. I would recommend you to go pessimistic, but most importantly is things that you actually know. Like if you're gonna run this campaign, you're gonna have this expense. Put it in, see what happens. If you want to hire another software, another team member, or get coaching or anything like that, you just put those expenses in there. If you run a new project, you put the estimated revenue in there, and you get a better sense for it. And for example, I was helping a friend the other day, and it looked like we're gonna have a problem over Christmas where actually cash goes below zero. I mean, that's gonna be a really terrible Christmas when that happens. So it was important that we plan events and experiences where revenue would come in before Christmas so that it covers the cash flow gap that he was experiencing. Now, in this case, he actually happened to have events planned, but he just didn't put it in there. So again, you put all your revenues in there, not just the main ones or the ongoing activities. It sort of becomes your everything when it comes for financial decisions. But that's where the power is, right? You'll see ahead of time whether you need to take action for a gap that is happening in your cash flow. Now, let me quickly interrupt myself to ask you for this favor. Now, I'm committed to take the 19 years of experience I have from this and put it into these videos to share with you as much as I know about organizing events, running dance schools, building teams, running communities, so that you can do an even better job making all of that happening for you. And what could really help me is if you do all this social media magic stuff, subscribe, like, comment, share with somebody that you think could benefit from these videos. You can choose your favorite video or the whole playlist or the organizer's checklist. Anything that spreads the message and the channel will help me tremendously. All right, much appreciated. Back to the video. Now, I'm gonna move over to how you can set this thing up as a database so that you can use a pivot table. The pivot table shows you all the same things. You have your revenue things, you have your expense things in categorized. You have them per week. You have the real numbers versus if I go further back, you have the estimated numbers. And you can do some calculations above, you can do some information below, you can see the dashboard like that. But on top of it, what you can do, you can actually say, I'm gonna collapse the weeks, I'm gonna collapse the months, and I wanna now you see all the numbers per month, right? You can collapse the quarter and you can see all the numbers per quarter. I could have added annual and then we could see it annually. You can't do this with this runway. In fact, if you wanna see how things are going per month, you have to sort of figure out, okay, between this and this period, this is a month, that was the minimum, like you have to play with it like this. You have to extract that numbers into other places. So here It's already in a database. How you represent your database is your choice. This is one way of handling it. But the cost of it is that it's a little bit more complex to set up. You need to be a little bit more spreadsheet savvy to do that, where you build a ledger with all your in and out. And here I would recommend you to do it really properly, have all the different time information, the obviously item, you categorize it. You are clear about whether it's a credit or debit, meaning, well, for simplicity, let's say revenue and expenses. You look at the currency you paid, the currency of the thing that you actually converted from. So let's say you're paying for ChatGPT or something like that. Then you're paying US dollars, but converts to euro. You list the VAT amount and rate. Then you get the net amount and gross amount, where you can see pre and post VAT tax. But also, if you go that extra mile, you can then also start categorizing according to bookkeeping terms. So for example, in Germany, we need to separate between whether it's a product or service, whether it's inside of Germany, whether it's inside of EU, whether it's outside of EU. So if you already categorize like that, then I have everything I need in order to also hand in my VAT declaration or end of the year financial tax information. But you can even then see how much VAT has you collected, how much have you paid, and this allows you to also then know ahead of time whether you're going to get VAT back or give VAT or pay VAT to the government, and even put that into your runway dashboard. So it's really powerful, takes a little bit more time to upkeep. And the challenge here is when it comes to the estimations, I actually separate estimations and anything that is not purely past and accurate data into separate tabs, and then I consolidate them. So here there's a formula that you use. Basically, you just put them into one dashboard that is running the pivot table. And in the estimated, for every individual number, you need to make a whole row that includes the time period, the week, what it is, and all the other information. In the runway one, you just put in the row, and you know it belongs to this and for that period and under this category and things like that. So it's just a little bit faster and easier. But the value here is you get it as a database. So then you just have your credits and debits. And also for the pivot table, I recommend you to put blank entries that represent every week, because otherwise it skips those weeks if it doesn't have an entry done that week. So if you have 1 week without any revenue or expenses, that week is not going to show in the pivot table. Once you've done it this way, well, you can show it in this format, you can show it in any other format because it has a database structure. The problem is, especially if you use Google Sheets, if you run for a longer period, several years, and if your business has more transaction volumes, you actually gonna run into limitations with how much data you can put into a Google Sheet. It has happened to us several times, where we then have to either do Excel, which I don't tend to do, but dissect or reduce the number of data we collect for our dashboards, or just separate them. So that's also the problem here. But at least this way, once you scale and become a bigger business, your data is available in a format that can be picked up by a real database. And then you have even more cool things that you can do. So importing this into a MySQL database or anything like that, and then you can use that into real business intelligence infrastructure. It's really cool, but advanced. So I recommend you to start here and then move on to something where you use a ledger infrastructure or a database infrastructure. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, there is a real emotional hurdle to implement something like this. If you need any help with it, I'm happy also to give you this as a template for you to use. There's some formulas here and there that could be beneficial. So just reach out to me. I'm happy to support you in any way I can with this thing, and spread the word, help other people see this channel and these videos. And until the next one.